The way I approached it was to say, look, everything's just got to be real. A huge amount of what we were doing, what I want to do is replication. So when the production department came in and the art department and camera department, everybody, I wanted them to see what I expected it to look like. So we had a gigantic amount of photographs.
That's one of the most fun, the most interesting parts is when we're doing the research.
Once he puts his mind to it and he gets involved in a project, it's because he knows every aspect of what he wants to do. Authenticity is his vision.
I have a really high standard for what I think should go into design and dress and background and like creating the world. I really wanted to root the audience in the period. You guys hear helicopters all the time, but that this one is like right above, staying above kind of the house. I was in college before Clinton declassified this mission, and so I didn't know about this at all. I was a Middle Eastern Studies major, and I took a couple of classes on the Islamic Revolution in Iran, and sort of had details from college classes that would pop up and that I would try to access to make the movie more interesting.
We kind of did our homework first, then kind of picked out a ton of books. Bunch of books.
I read all the major books on the takeover of the embassy. I watched all the movies, all the documentaries, and then I read the articles and the interviews with the house guests. There weren't too many of those, and so I went directly to many of them.
Obviously, the real people know a lot more about it because they lived it.
And talked to them about their experiences. That was just really to build the sequence the first 10 minutes of the movie.
The lamb is delicious, and you're like, yes, excellent. Like a molecule of bread in your mouth.
It was very unusual what Ben had us do to prepare for this movie.
For rehearsal, it was mandatory that if we took the job that we had to go and live in this house for 6 days.
I wanted the house guests to live together, and I wanted them to live together in the location with the set dressing, in the environment, as close to what it would be when they were there.
They sat in the same chairs that they then sat in as the characters.
We put in period movies and put in period music and record players and magazines from that time and books that were popular in that era. And so they lived as those characters in that environment.
We had no cell phones, we had no computers, no internet.
If you picked up a newspaper lying around, it was from 1979. The irony is that a lot of the stories in the newspapers are the same things that are going on today.
I wanted them to get comfortable with one another so that when we were shooting scenes where they're supposed to be comfortable with one another or at one another's throats, that felt real. It didn't feel forced. It's very hard to act familiarity.
It was a great way to get some texture and depth and not necessarily only the political perspective. It was a great experience to have.
You can get the same effect as you get a little bit closer. Sure. I went to the CIA and I researched what it was really like there and talked to the director and talked to people who worked there and, you know, walked the halls and spent time there. It really mattered to me that it feel real.
The CIA doesn't typically offer any sort of public access. I think that if this movie was not about an American hero who was a CIA operative, we would not have gotten into the CIA at all.
When the CIA said they'd let us shoot there, we certainly weren't going to not shoot there. The thrill for me of that was just to be in the hallway, to go over the seal and to see the stars on the wall, and that's why I designed a specific shot. Pushing. Tony goes by and we hold on the stars on the wall, and we had to use computer effects to take down the number of stars because far fewer people had been killed, of course, at that point than have now in service of the Central Intelligence Agency. But still, I wanted people to see that.
One of the biggest challenges from the film is you can't shoot in Iran, so that's tough.
We went all over the world scouting places, Jordan, Morocco, Bulgaria. I mean, we scouted everything. And ultimately, Turkey just by far was the best.
Istanbul's pretty convincing as Tehran. Some of the architecture is similar in this part of the city.
It really looks authentic.
The overthrow of the embassy, the challenges are twofold. One, successfully reproducing things that actually happened. We couldn't shoot it for 4 hours naturally, so we had to compress some stuff and clap some things, but keeping it true to the integrity of the real events. 2, executing it as a filmmaker, making it good, frankly, with the limited time that we have, getting the shots that I need to make sure the shots were exciting and interesting and told the story. 3, this was by far the biggest thing, we had 2,000 extras, more than I've ever worked with by far, who I needed to be frantic and rabid with anger, and they had to learn Farsi chants. It just was a really difficult sequence.
It looks exactly like that footage, and so you get a sense of the scale of the protests and of the movement.
Pull him up and in front of the crowd as a thing, the crowd's going to see that he gets blindfolded as a symbol. So the pressure was definitely on, but it worked out wonderfully. We got lucky with the weather.
The weather today in Istanbul is actually exactly the weather that they had on November 4th, 1979. It was sort of a drizzly day. It was overcast, but people still turned out in throngs to the gates of the embassy.
We're in the Grand Bazaar. One of the reasons that we chose to film in Turkey as our Tehran was that this bazaar was so fantastic. The bazaar in Tehran is one of the oldest bazaars in the world, and it's gorgeous and complex and multi-layered. And this, we felt, had the most of that flavor.
It's just an amazing experience to be inside this historic building that's shut down essentially for us, and to be surrounded by all these extras. That sense of claustrophobia and that reality of being surrounded and chased by these people is pretty overwhelming.
Our timing worked out really well for a giant holiday, Bayram, and the bazaar is actually closed Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, which is just unheard of.
They've set dressed this to 1979 and put all these extras, like 250 extras in 1979 clothes. And it's fantastic. Makes it very easy to act.
We made all the clothes for the mullahs. You don't find those here. They're not in costume houses. We made 500 chadors, the long black cloak that women wear.
Jackie West is an actual genius. She's so amazing that she does all your work for you just by finding the clothes for people.
When you look at the research from Iran, all the student rebels, people on the street, very early 70s in their dress, a lot of big collars and fat ties. When you look at the followers of the Ayatollah or the student revolution, you see no ties. They quit wearing ties because ties stood for capitalism and the Shah and Western culture.
Everything's perfect. Everything's more inspired than you thought it would be. Nothing's pushed. Nothing's exaggerated.
That was so great to be able to create all that stuff.
Somehow it feels subtle the way she did it, and it feels like of the period and not sort of like of the period. It feels very real.
We get to shoot at the Hagia Sophia and the Blue Mosque, and those are just beautiful World Heritage sites.
We are in the Blue Mosque right now. It's kind of a rare opportunity. There's no one here right now. It's shut down this morning for us to film in.
It's really very, very old. It's maybe the oldest building I've ever been in. It's really beautiful.
The Blue Mosque is, one of the most important pieces of architecture in Istanbul. I want to put the exterior of that in, the interior of the Hagia Sophia in. It's a little bit of a cheat because it sort of suggests that they're both the same thing, but they're next to one another. The Hagia Sophia is an incredible place because it's been a church, it's been a mosque, it's now a museum. It's at the crossroads of all these cultures, and it is the actual embodiment of that intersection. They had these really ugly light bulbs in there that were energy efficient. So in order for us to shoot, we needed to change the light bulbs. We did. There were 4,000 light bulbs.
They had 8 gentlemen over the course of one night. Each fixture, of course, has to be individually changed with the lid popping off and changing the bulb. It's quite a big deal, but it's a nice, sparkly, natural look, clear bulb like it would have been in the time we're shooting in 1979.
We needed the airport to look like an airport in Tehran. That was the most important thing.
The Ontario airport, it's the same period, and I should say that we used an old piece of the Ontario airport that's now no longer used.
I really wanted to dig deep. I want to shoot close-ups on posters. I never subscribed to this idea that, well, you shoot the actor and everything as it gets further away from the actor, it starts to be increasingly less relevant. I wanted details
We had extensive research, so because this is a historical piece, we based as much as we could on actual propaganda, slogans, signage. The Maribab International Airport is directly a copy. We were well aware that the country was blanketed with Khomeini, so we bought some Khomeini photographs and then we had artists interpret them.
When we were in the airport, a lot of the Persian extras came up to us and said, gosh, this is bringing me back 30 years. And I think they were triggered by seeing these big posters, and not just big Khomeini posters, but little posters with the writing on it and propaganda, and sort of being stuck into the middle of this whole world, including extras, including guys with guns.
The most amazing part is really the exterior shot when they drive in.
The sequence in front of the airport with taxi cabs, cop cars, all the background stuff, total up to about 47 cars, 48 cars. We were able to go out and score old Mavericks, Granadas, Fiats, Peugeots, some VW buses, so we had a lot of fun finding the stuff and building it.
With all that background, I don't think anybody would ever question that it wasn't the airport in Tehran.
Going into the toast was great, and I wish we had cameras on everybody. It would be finished.
I think nowadays when you're making a film, especially a drama, I think you have to stick to the facts as much as possible. You have to bring people into that world.
It's a good subtle adjustment, I think.
Yeah. Ben has a great eye for that.
You can't fake it. We never allowed it to be okay to just say, it'll be all right. Well, no, it doesn't look like it, but it's fine. Let me see the ending again. And so together, I think we got to something that, we were all much happier with.